But we're not even gonna skip over that though, because J. Cole, like that, like from the start, how did that like work out? Like you was like in charge of like his marketing and everything like that. So like what did you do with him from the start? Like go back to like the day that you met him and that first conversation, if you can remember that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll be honest. I wasn't. It took a while for me to like really rock with him. You know, fault of my own of not really seeing the vision. So when I was at St. John's, I was throwing a lot of events, a lot of like art shows and fashion shows and hosting events. And he would always, you know, he was younger than me. He was a sophomore. I was a senior. And he would just be like, yo, I want to come and freestyle at your events. I want to come and freestyle at your events. And I would always kind of blow him off and brush him off. And one day I invited Stack Bundles to perform at St. John's. I did this fashion show. So Stack came and performed at halftime. And we needed somebody to open up for Stack. So I let Cole, and at the time he was called The Therapist. But
Oh, wow.
I let Cole freestyle to get the crowd warmed up to bring on Stack Bundles.
Yo, it's your boy Business, aka the Show Venter. I vent about all your favorite shows and all that. BMF Power, Ghost Power, Force, Raising Canaan. I got a special guest in the building. This is Love is Love podcast. This is not a regular podcast. I got one of the best directors in the game. Like, he been doing this for so long, you know what I'm saying? Like, he doing movies now, you know what I'm saying? Music videos, from music videos, commercials to movies. You know what I mean? I got Aristotle Torres. What's up?
Bless. Thank you for having me. Already, man. Appreciate you.
How you feeling, bro?
Man, I'm chilling, you know? It's a good day. I'm alive. Bills are paid. Got a roof over my head. Shit could be worse.
Yeah, that's all you can ask for.
Pretty much.
Yeah, nah, definitely, man. So you from the Bronx?
From the BX, Soundview, all day. Went to 182, 174, my senior Scanlon. Stomping grounds.
Okay. How was it like growing up in the Bronx?
Man, I love growing up in the Bronx, man. I mean, you know, we invented hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Ralph Lauren, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, some of the greatest ever stepped through the Bronx. So I'm proud for sure.
You could go all day with that.
Yeah,
too.
I could. I really could. You know what I'm saying? Kerry Washington, J-Lo, Ice Spice, right? Ice Spice is what the kids are into.
Hey, Boogie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
already.
Stuff like that. Man, so let's talk about your journey from the start, man. You've been doing this for a minute. Like, how did you get started, like, in film? Like, just directing, you know, like, everything like that?
For sure, yeah. I think, you know, a little bit of luck, a little bit of ambition and desire. In college, I went to St. John's. I wanted to be a sports agent, so I was in their pre-law program. And I was the president of the sports management committee. And I invited a gentleman by the name of Greg Marius to come speak at St. John's, who was the founder and CEO of Rucker Park. And we hit it off, and I asked if he would be my mentor, and he invited me to come be his like assistant / like runner for the summer after I graduated at Rucker Park. And it just so happened that summer ESPN2 launched, and the Rucker Park had a show on ESPN2 called Live at Rucker Park. So this is a long story short. Basically, Greg went, also RIP, rest in peace to Greg. Greg unfortunately passed away, so much love to him. You know, Greg went out and bought all this amazing equipment and had to make the show for ESPN. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but like the person who was supposed to show up on the first day, they couldn't come. So Greg was like, yo, do you know how to shoot anything? And me being ambitious, I'm like, yeah, but I'd never really shot anything before. So he was like, all right, well, you know, do you want to shoot the show? And we'll find a director for the next episode, like someone who could really do it. But anyway, so I did that. I understood just from years of watching basketball as a massive Knicks fan. You know, you got your wide camera in the stands that kind of pan from left to right. And then you got like a camera floating for the home team and a camera floating for the away team. And just kind of, you know, took that ambition and that like I didn't fear failing, and did this episode. And he ended up keeping me on doing that. And that was kind of just like my entryway into that. And then that year, BMF actually, that Fab was like cool with them at the time,
Right.
and Jeezy and like Blue Da Vinci.
Yeah.
So it's so funny that like we're connecting on this because this is
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
crazy.
yeah, it's full circle. But anyway,
Yeah.
those guys were coming to almost all the games at Rucker Park, and Fab, I met Fab briefly, and he saw me doing video, and he was like, "Yo, you should get an internship at Def Jam," because he was at Def Jam at the time.
Wow.
And
That's crazy.
I knew a family friend who worked in the A&R department. So A&R's artists and repertoire. That's not video, but it was at the label. And I begged this family friend, shout to Lisa Brunson, for an internship, and finally she got me in at Def Jam. And at that time, I was working closely with J. Cole. And I saw from, we went to St. John's together, and I just saw from being at the label, just like what it took to get signed. Like you needed music videos, you needed dope photos, you needed all these things. So, you know, working with I was doing a lot more music than video stuff, but I was working with Cole on these projects, and I was like, bro, we got to get these videos done.
Right.
And I ended up shooting like Lights Please and Lost Ones and Young Simba. And that was kind of like my entryway in, was just like, you know, I had just done this ESPN2 thing, but it was completely different, but I at least knew how to use the camera and shot these music videos. And then J. Cole blew up like in a really short amount of time. And this was like during the blog era. So like shout out to like Low Key and Nah Right and all these guys who were so supportive of us and like on Smash. And they were showing Cole mad love, and we were getting mad love on the blogs. And then Fab was like, yo, who shot these videos for Cole? Oh, that's the kid that I would see all the time at Rucker Park.
Right.
So then I ended up doing like all the marketing for like a few Fab projects, like Tank 2 and Tank 3, and like the Lost Tapes, I think it was called, and was just shooting videos like I'm Raw and You Be Killing Them and Throw It in the Bag, and like
Yeah, you was going crazy, man.
Yeah.
But we're not even gonna skip over that though, because J. Cole, like that, like from the start, how did that like work out? Like you was like in charge of like his marketing and everything like that. So like, what did you do with him from the start? Like go back to like the day that you met him and that first conversation, if you can remember that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll be honest. I wasn't. It took a while for me to like really rock with him. You know, fault of my own of not really seeing the vision. So when I was at St. John's, I was throwing a lot of events, a lot of like art shows and fashion shows and hosting events. And he would always, you know, he was younger than me. He was a sophomore. I was a senior. And he would just be like, yo, I want to come and freestyle at your events. I want to come and freestyle at your events. And I would always kind of blow him off and brush him off. And one day I invited Stack Bundles to perform at St. John's. I did this fashion show. So Stack came and performed at halftime. And we needed somebody to open up for Stack. So I let Cole, and at the time he was called The Therapist. But
Oh, wow.
I let Cole freestyle to get the crowd warmed up to bring on Stack Bundles.
Right.
And I thought he was like, okay, but like, you know, I wasn't like, oh my God, I need to manage and work with this kid. And it was a mutual friend of ours named Sam, who was this amazing pianist. I was more into making music at that time and more enamored with like making music. So I was really vibing with Sam because Sam was this genius pianist and writer. And he was like, yo, you should really go and listen to this kid, Jermaine's music. Like, I think he's really got something. So one day Jermaine invited me to his crib, and it's the crib that like we all know now. Like I think it's called like a mod's place or something like that. But I went to that crib, really small room, just a bed on the floor, the whiteboard with like $1 in a Dream tour written on it. Like all the things that that's why I'm so proud of him, because all the things that he envisioned for himself as an artist, he knew from when he was just living in this little room. And he played me Lost Ones and Lights Please and Young Simba and just all these songs that ended up making it on his first album. And it was just abundantly clear that he was special and like way ahead of his time, and just a really brilliant lyricist and a brilliant producer. And yeah, that's kind of how we met. But man, that kid was talented from the very beginning.
That's super dope, man. Lights
Yeah.
Please is so classic.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, definitely, man. I want to talk about your company too, man, by any means.
Yeah.
Man, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I was like, doing my research and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, y'all was like ahead of y'all time for real and what y'all offer the artists. But just
Mm-hmm.
tell the people, like, what is by any means about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what did it represent? Like, things like
For
that.
sure. Yeah. So, you know, when I was at Def Jam, you know, now Cole is like kind of popping. And I noticed working at the label that there wasn't really any more artist development. You know, so like the young acts at that time were like Bieber and Rihanna and Big Sean. These were like artists that were on the label, but like they hadn't really come out yet. And I just noticed that like the trend, the way labels were going was like you had to come in packaged. You
Right.
know, you had to come in ready to go out. Like, you know what I'm saying? They weren't gonna like put you in vocal coaching or media training, or they just like you gotta walk in there being like, I'm ready to be on right now.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool. This could be a niche for me to you know, utilize what I learned working with Cole of developing him as a musical act. But more than anything is being able to, you know, because I wanted to direct videos at that point, was being able to meet new artists that I could shoot their videos, their content. So I was
Right.
like, so I formed a friend of mine also worked at Def Jam. His name was Tavon, and he worked in the like graphic design portion of the label. Like he designed album covers and like posters and promotional tools. So it's all circumstance, man. It's all luck. So to keep it a buck, I'm selling weed at this time.
Right.
And my boy, who was a photographer named Ty Chen, was shooting these photos for Jim Jones. And Jim needed bud. So Jim tells my boy Ty, like, you know anybody who sells weed? So Ty hits me up and is like, yo, Jim's looking for bud. Can you come through and serve him?
Right.
So I go through to just serve Jim, but of course in Jim fashion, like I get there, he makes me wait like an hour. So I'm just in the studio, just like, this was when Dame managed him right before he came out with the Pray for Rain album. So I hear Dame and Jim talking about, as I'm just waiting, you know, to serve Jim, I hear Jim and Dame talking about that they need to do an album cover and like promotional tools because
Oh, wow.
he was at Sony or Columbia at the time, but I guess like they weren't really loving what their creative team was coming with. So Dame was just like, yo, we need to do like our own thing. We need to get our own graphic designers, our own video people. And I overheard that.
Yeah.
So I don't say nothing. I'm just like ear hustling and I leave and I call Tavon. And I'm like, yo, because I know Tavon could do graphics.
Yeah.
And my boy Ty shot all these photos and I knew creative direction. So I called Tavon. I'm like, yo, I got to meet you tomorrow. So I go to Def Jam. I meet with Tavon. I'm like, bro, we got this opportunity to do these covers for Jim. And like, I think I could get us this job if we do this work. But we might not get it. So we just doing it for free and we doing it on the love. So we ended up taking the photos that Ty did, Tavon's genius of graphic designing, and then my ideas of like creative direction and layout, and we put together like 4 actual album packages, like in the jewel case of different covers and different album packaging. We made posters. I went to Kinko's. I printed out posters.
Crazy.
So I went back to the studio, not even knowing if Jim would even let me in because he didn't call me back. But I knew that they were going to be there the next night. So Tavon and I spent all day getting these joints ready. I go back to the studio and I show him and Dame, like, yo, I overheard y'all needed these album covers. I overheard that y'all needed these things done and I did them. Boom, here you go. This is how it would look. So this was like on a Friday, I think, or on a Thursday. That following Monday, they hired me and brought me to Sony and was like, this is our creative director. And that was, so then from that, I needed to process my invoices and I needed a company in order to get Sony to pay me to do the work. So Tavon and I were like, yo, we're going to start this company called By Any Means. And like, it had kind of been rolling, like By Any Means existed because I was doing it in college, but it was more of an idea than like a company that I was doing with some friends that I knew there. But Tavon and I like made it a company, went to Chase, opened up a banking account. And that was the first thing we really did, was doing all the marketing and the promo for this Pray for Rain album. So we oversaw the music videos, we oversaw the album cover, the rollout, the marketing, and then the publicist for that album named Steven Victor ended up managing the Clips. So Steven's like,
Yeah, I know who that is, yeah.
So he was like, yo,
Yeah.
you want to come and do all the marketing for this Clips Till the Casket Drops album? And I'm like, bet. So then we rolled right from Jim straight into doing it for the Clips. And then it was like after those 2 albums, I went back to Def Jam.
Right.
And I was like, yo, I have this company called By Any Means. Y'all know me. I worked here. I interned here for 2 years. Jay-Z was the president at the time, and J. Cole was Jay-Z's big artist. So, like, there was just a lot of overlap. And I was like, yo, y'all should hire me and my company to come in and help you develop your new acts. And then that was really the inception of it all. But the whole purpose of By Any Means was really just an artist collective of like young artists and contemporary artists that I admired or was inspired by.
Right.
And bringing a group of dope people, young dope people, primarily of color, together to have an opportunity to work and collaborate with these labels and these bigger artists. And that was really the start of it.
No, definitely, man. That's motivation, though. I'm not gonna lie, because just by you being in the studio, like, you know, you could have just did what you had to do and just leave. But you was listening in, you know, you took the initiative to go get the album covers done and everything. Like, that's what I'll be talking about now. Like, I'll be talking that like with my team that I'm building now, about just having stuff ready already. Like, cause these people that you're trying to connect with, they got so much going on. Like, you know what I mean? They're running companies, have it packaged already. Like, have it there. Like, don't give them no time to ask you, oh, but how this, but how that. Have it all like laid out. You know what I'm saying? So, and when you call it By Any Means, it makes sense because you did that by any means. You know what I'm saying? Like, call your man as soon as you left. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I know you do this. Let's work together. Let's get it done. Let's start that company. Go to the Chase. Make sure. Like, all that stuff is just like grind and hustle. Like, and like, I appreciate that. I respect that. Definitely, bro. And I say that to say, man, like, you see, like, that's not even your full. That's a little piece. That's a little piece and everything, but you see like how he kept grinding. You see how he kept going. Get what I'm saying? Like, he would have never been here right now if he would have just like was chilling and being too cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, didn't get in the field to go do that. That's just like a little piece. But I say that to say, man, keep going, man. The brand, like, get what I'm saying? Like, you see what I'm wearing right now? I already gave Aristotle his shirt before the interview started. Get what I'm saying? You can go to businessandco.store. Go get that right now. Again, businessandco.store. Keep going. Get what I mean? You could go on my page, too. You could see Keep Going. Like, if you scroll back to see where it's at now, that's all we did. Like, we just kept going.
Yep.
For real.
Yeah, that's real.
Nah, definitely, man. So, like, when J. Cole got signed, when Jay-Z signed him and everything, like, I read that a lot of artists was hitting you up, like, can you do the same thing you did for Cole? Like, for us, like, you know, the marketing plan, the videos and everything, like, yeah, so how did that go? And, like, how did it feel? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I don't know. I'm 41 now, and I was 20 at that time, so I'm such a different person. But I think the thing that I really... Even though I made a ton of mistakes and I had a lot of ego then that I had to shed to get to this place, and I'm still shedding ego, but like definitely way more then. You know, one thing I really admire about myself then is I was just really ambitious and I wasn't afraid to fail. And I wasn't afraid to just take a chance on myself, you know, and yeah, I mean, it felt great. I would assume, I don't remember exactly the feeling, but I would assume that, like, you know, when you're young and ambitious and you're investing your own time and your own money, 99.9% of the times, you don't get that happy outcome. You don't get, you know what I'm saying? It's just an opportunity for you to learn a lesson and then go to the next thing. So, you know, to be successful so young was great, and it gave me a lot of confidence.
Right.
But it also gave me a lot of ego, you know, so it's a, you know, it's a process. But yeah, I mean, I was super proud of Cole, and you know, I remember when I met Cole, I was like, you know, who's the like the #1 artist you really want to sign to? And he was like, you know, either Jay-Z or Lil Wayne. That was his, and this was before Young Money. This was before like Drake, because I remember when the Come Up came out. That's around when Drake's mixtape came out. So it was before Young Money times, and you know, Jim and Wayne at that time were mad cool. So we got Wayne to listen to the songs, you know what I'm saying? And I think he was already rocking with Drake, but you know, to be the first person to ever play Cole's music for Jay-Z is crazy, you know what I'm saying? And then to then have him sign to him, and now obviously he's one of the most iconic, influential artists in the world. It's humbling, you know what I'm saying?
Not to stop you though, but you played Jay-Z the album, and like you played him
not
the
the
music?
album, but just, you know, you only get like 2 or 3 songs with
That's
someone
fire.
like that, you know. So
That's fire.
yeah, you only get 2 or 3 songs. It was through at the time I had a mentor named Gabrielle Peluso, who was the president of Def Jam at the time, or the GM of Def Jam. And you know, she believed in me very young and made sure that like that whole clique listened to us. So like Tata and Jay Brown and Jay, it was a blessing. I will be honest though, I wasn't the person that made Jay sign Cole. Cole ended up meeting a guy named Mark Pitts, I think, who was Biggie's manager. And Mark was the guy who like sat Jay down and was like, nah, you need to really believe in this artist. So I don't want to misrepresent myself or what I contributed, but because I was working at Def Jam and I knew Gabby, the first time he heard the music was via me. But then it was like a year or 8 months later that he actually signed Cole, and that was through Mark Pitts. Yeah.
That's super dope, man. Also was reading about, you said you was at Def Jam, but people probably don't know you was interning there. So like you wasn't getting paid, like, and you was like answering calls or.
Yeah, so at first I started off in with that family friend Lisa Brunson in the A&R department.
Shout out to Lisa Brunson for sure.
Yeah, you know, she was in charge of the masters, which was like a really at the time I didn't realize how important it was, but it's one of the most important departments at the label, because pretty much when the artist submits their album, it has to go through legal for sample clearances before anyone hears it.
Right.
And she's in charge of that master. There's only one copy.
Oh, okay,
so if the album gets leaked, anything, it'll come from her department.
Oh,
and you know, we were in charge of like keeping all this music in a safe, super secured, super vaulted, and working with the legal department for getting like samples cleared and stuff. So I did that for 2 years for pretty much free, for nothing.
Yeah.
And then someone at DTP, a guy named Jeff Dixon, DTP was next, like, so the way Def Jam was like Rockefeller had like an area, and then A&R had an area, and then DTP had an area. So DTP was like right next to my area. And
what was DTP?
Disturbing the Peace was Luda's label.
Oh, okay.
So this guy named Jeff Dixon, who ran DTP, took a liking to me, and one of the first big videos I got was a Luda video, and was from that, you know. So
was that
like,
Jingling?
Nah, maybe it was Jingling.
Okay.
It was one of those. But anyway, I bring that up to say that like, me being a good intern and a hard worker is what got me a massive video like 4 years later. You know, so it all matters. Like, don't skip steps. Know that someone's always watching, someone's always listening. You know, so when I was interning, I was always the first person there in the morning and the last person to leave at night. And the way Def Jam was this was when they were on 8th Avenue. They had 3 floors. And the top floor, the 28th floor, was where like Jay-Z was, and DTP and my thing, but it was also very empty, because Jay liked his isolation. He wanted not have mad people. There wasn't a lot of people on our floor, so like there were no posters on the wall. Like, it didn't look like a record label. So I remember, you know, I was there like early. I was there, like at the beginning of my internship. I was like, I'm gonna add posters on every, like, I designed the whole walls and took like all these posters that like nobody was using. I was just like sitting in a corner like Jeezy and Rick Ross, and put all these posters up. And I remember one of the first times Jay-Z acknowledged me. It was because he came into work one day and was like, oh my God, the walls have posts. They have like art on it. Like, it looks like a record label. Who did that? And Lisa was like, oh, my intern Aristotle did that. So that was like my entryway
It's major.
of like getting him to look at me, and like Lenny S and all these guys. So this is all very long-winded ways of saying of like, you got to just try. And like, you know, if there's like, I could have easily just sat there all day and I wouldn't have gotten in trouble because there was really nothing for me to do. But I took that initiative of like, I'm looking at 1,000 posters sitting in a corner that are great posters that like nothing's going with, and I'm looking at all these blank walls. Fuck it, I'm gonna just do this myself, you know. And that's kind of how that all came to be.
Yo, that's dope, man. Like, it's like a trend because you taking the initiative, like you just doing it, like, because like a lot of people, they just want to get paid off of stuff first. Like, nah, like you could do it for free, like, but just put the work in, like you getting paid for it. Like you gonna end up, it's eventually gonna happen, but you can't like make the motivation the money. Like if you really want it, like if you really want it bad, like, so that's dope, man. That's a lot of motivation, like for people watching out there.
Yeah, man.
Like for sure, man. So then you started, so you left Def Jam.
Right? I got fired.
You got fired?
I got fired.
Okay.
I got fired from Def Jam.
Okay.
But good experience still nonetheless.
Definitely. And you started working with the legend, Sylvia Rhone.
I did. That was a crazy experience. That was another, you know, instance of opportunity and ambition. So I get let go at Def Jam. Not even for reasons of my fault, but I won't even get into that. And I started temping, which is where like you sign up with a temp agency, and then temp agencies will need like an assistant for a day. And they'll put you there for the day, or they'll put you there for the week until they find like the permanent person. So there was a temp agency that just did all the record labels. And I'm doing this temp agency thing. And at this point, Cole's kind of popping already. So it was great. I was still able to survive. But I get this call one day and they're like, oh, Sylvia Rhone, the president of Motown, fired her assistant this morning and she needs somebody to just answer her phones for the day. That's it. And thankfully, the craziness of Lisa Brunson, Lisa's one of the craziest people, sweetest people, but crazy. She was so meticulous about how people answered her phone.
Right.
So I went through 2 years of boot camp of like learning how to talk to people over the phone and learning how to represent an office, you know? So I do this day with Sylvia and I'm answering the phones all day. And the chairman at that time of Universal Music Group, I think his name was, I remember. Anyway, he was like, there was no boss higher than him. He was the boss.
Right.
And he worked in this building. This was a different building than Def Jam. But anyway, he called to speak to Sylvia, and I picked up the phone the way I learned from Lisa. And he said to Sylvia, I learned later, whoever answered your phone, that needs to be the person answering your phones from now on.
Wow.
So I left that day thinking that I was just there for the day. And the human resources department called me and they were like, yo, Sylvia really wants you to work here. And at the time, I didn't want to be an assistant anymore because like Cole was kind of popping, you know?
Yeah.
So I was able to work out a deal where I wouldn't be her first assistant. I would be her second assistant, but I had the title of junior A&R.
Okay.
And our deal was I would be able to play her music once a week of new artists that I liked. Every Friday, I have an hour. And that was like our deal for me. And then, you know, she was so kind because she could have been like, nah, whatever. But
yeah,
she really believed in me. And I played her like Kid Cudi. I played her the Cool Kids. I played her the Lady Gaga demo when she was still on Def Jam doing acoustic music.
Crazy.
And I just, you know, she never signed any of the artists that I brought to her, but those meetings really gave me confidence to like hone my ear of what I thought talent was. And a lot of the artists that I did play for her ended up becoming mad successful. So I was grateful for all of those experiences. But yeah, those years with Sylvia were, you know, it was all boot camp, getting ready to do these things. So now when I'm trying to pitch, getting millions of dollars to make my movie, it's those experiences of being young and scared and afraid, but being like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway, and like learning, you know?
Yeah, that's major, man, because I was reading, like, she was the first black women executive.
Ever in music.
CEO, chairman, like.
Yep. Boss.
Yeah.
Like, big boss.
Major, man. Major. So, like, I also seen something, too, with all the music videos that you directed. We could talk about the early ones, too. you don't put directed by Aristotle, you put visualized by Aristotle. So like, why do you do that? Like,
Yeah, so that started off because I had friends in my life who were like, they went to film school. So I just felt like I wasn't a director. Because I didn't go to film school. I just shot my friend rapping into the camera, you know, like I didn't feel like I was a director. I felt like I didn't earn it yet. So that's why I went by visualized by Aristotle. But, you know, I think when you do things with good intentions, it all works out because like now everyone's visualized by or captured by or, you know, I was really just trying to respect the craft, but people took it as marketing.
right.
You know, and it kind of gave me like my own style and swag, you know. But yeah, that's why I initially did that.
No, I did.
It was more for insecurities.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But like from how I'm looking at it, from like, because you're not just shooting the music video, like you had like narration and all that from early.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like putting stories together, and you did Loso's Way, the movie.
Yeah, did do that. Wow, you did do your research
for the album.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. That is true. Please don't watch it, but that is true.
You don't like it now? I know you really looking at old stuff you don't like now.
Man, you know, you just figuring it out. Then you know what I mean. It's all good learning experiences for sure.
No, definitely. So, what's the first video you did for Fabulous?
The first thing I ever did for Fab was actually these trailers. I did some trailers for the Loso's Way album. And that's how it started. And then he was doing this movie and they had a script already, but they had a different director, and the trailers went over so well on the internet, on the blogs, that they ended up giving my company the movie. But yeah, I ended up doing these a bunch of like just trailers for the album. Some of them were like to songs that were on the album, and some of them were just like visual, like beautiful visuals to like kind of look at.
Right.
And then we just got cool and got really close. You know, I was such a fan of his. Like I remember seeing Fab perform at like Lincoln Homecoming when I was in college, you know, and just a huge fan of his music. So to now be like in rooms with him talking about ideas was crazy. And like, even though shooting those videos were nightmares, like it was no money and no time, I'm so appreciative of him because, you know, the only videos I had really done at that time was I did all the J. Cole videos, and then I did some Busta Rhymes stuff.
Okay.
So that was really it, but no one was really like seeking me out crazy like that. So
right.
When I did the You Be Killing Them video, which was
classic.
like my first real big video that I had more than like 10 grand to shoot the video, you know? I remember distinctly Def Jam was telling Fab like, no, he cannot do this. Like he's not experienced enough to do this video. And Fab really fought for me to do that. And then we ended up, you know, getting nominated for Video of the Year award. So like, I'm so appreciative of him for that opportunity. And that was the video that really changed everything, where now labels were like, oh, who's this guy? It wasn't just like artists hitting me up like, yo, here's some cash, do a video for me. Now it was like, yo, like this is real.
We got a budget.
Yeah,
like,
we got a budget
like,
now. Yeah, so that changed everything for sure.
Nah, that's dope, man. And you mentioned earlier too, you did Throw It in the Bag too?
I did. Yeah, I think the remix maybe, or maybe it was the original. I don't remember. I don't know. That was so long ago.
Dope song.
Yeah,
Classic
oh my God.
song.
Come on. The Dream.
That's it.
The Dream.
That's one of the ones. Definitely, that's one of them ones. So what video, you say you work with Busta Rhymes too?
Yeah. So my first time ever getting paid to do a music video was for Busta, which was insane for me because growing up, Busta and Missy and Puff had the best videos. They had all the Hype Williams videos.
Yeah.
So to me, he was like king of videos.
Yeah.
And what happened was I'd done some marketing for, I think it was Extinction Level Event, the album that had A-Rab Money on it.
Okay.
I ended up doing some marketing for that, and like helped with the album cover and helped with just overseeing some videos, and I did a bunch of photography for him. So like he was like a mentor of mine at that point. Like I would call him and ask him for advice on like how to navigate other situations. And I remember distinctly, I was at this bar called Verlaine in the Lower East Side. I was super drunk, and Busta texted me and he was like, yo, tomorrow I want to shoot a video. I have this amount of money. like, can you introduce me to a young director to do this video? And I remember I was on a date. I was like, yeah, I go take this phone call. I left the date that I was with, and I remember exactly where I was sitting. If you know Lower East Side, there's a place called Economy Candy, and there's a stoop right there. I sat on that stoop for almost 20 minutes begging Buster to let me just direct the video.
It's crazy.
And finally, at first he was like, nah, like, so it was a song with Big Tigger. And it was doing well on radio. And he was like, nah, I need a bigger director. Like, I appreciate it. I'll let you do the next one. And I was like, no, like, you have to let me do this video.
Yeah.
And the very next day I was directing this video. So that was like the first thing I ever really directed beyond like somebody that I just knew, you know, through selling weed or
You know the name of that?
It was called, I think it was called If You Don't Know.
Okay.
I think it was called If You Don't Know.
Tigger.
Yeah, with Big Tigger.
Okay. Dope.
But anyway, so that was like the first real entryway into that. And then Busta introduced me to like Swizz, and he had this artist named Reek the Villain, so I did some videos for him, and he introduced me to Snoop and all these other people that I ended up doing videos for. It was because Busta really embraced me really young, you know.
Yeah, man. From what I'm hearing, like you was like good at networking early. Like you like get like connecting with somebody. Like what's like big now? I mean, like you know, you go somewhere, you meet somebody. Oh, they know somebody. Oh, they know somebody. Like. And then now you shooting videos for him, this label, that label. Like, get what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, I think success is a combination of preparation and luck. And I think that's why it's so important to shed ego, because ego will convince us that we're special. And we're really not special. You know, it's preparation, it's sacrifice, it's hard work, it's consistency. But a lot of it is just luck. And that's why you got to remain grounded and balanced and humble, because to achieve anything that's even perceived as successful, there's a bit of luck in there. There's a bit of something that's outside of your control, you know? And like sometimes when I get really depressed or like I doubt myself, I think of these moments that remind me that like this is my purpose on this earth. Even if it's not exactly how I envisioned it, or my ego isn't being satisfied with like money or notoriety, like I'm able to create and I'm able to meet people and they're able to see something in me that sometimes I'm not even able to see in myself, you know? So it's really important to stay grounded and stay humble in this whole game.
Nah, definitely, man. And I just want to know too, you work with Nas too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Legend.
I mean,
one of the biggest, like, one of the
and
goats.
probably one of the nicest people I've ever worked with.
Oh, real? Okay.
Only 2 people have ever called me to say thank you, and Nas was one of them. You know, and that means a lot.
Definitely.
That means a lot, you know, when people appreciate your hard work.
What videos did you do for Nas?
I did Nas the Don, and I did Bye Baby, which were both on the Life is Good album.
Dope.
Yeah.
So we gonna get into Story Ave, man. You know what I mean? Like, that movie fire. Like I seen it the other day. Had to do the reaction.
Watching. Yeah, appreciate you.
Had to do the reaction video like right after I seen it. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. Thank you.
So you how you like the video though?
Oh my gosh, so funny. It was great because as soon as I posted it, Melvin hit me up. We laughed about it, and Guzman hit me up and we laughed about it, and he shared it. So it's great. You know, it's great. I think, you know, our movie was so small and it was such a labor of love. You know, anytime people appreciate what we all sacrificed to get that done, it's humbling and a blessing and crazy. So we definitely appreciate the support and the love.
Nah, definitely, man. So Story Ave, man, that's like an actual block in the Bronx, right?
It is. It's where I grew up. I grew up on Story Ave in Metcalf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. So you got Luis Guzman in there, man. One of the
legend.
biggest.
Talk about legend.
Yeah.
Big legend.
One of the biggest actors in the game all time.
Big
man.
legend.
How was it like working with him, and how did you even meet? How did y'all meet?
Such a blessing, man. I met Ruben through a mutual friend of ours, and it was crazy because when I left Sundance and I had a script, we were trying to get in touch with Guzman. This was COVID, so like nothing was really shaking at that time. But we, you know, I have an agent and a manager who are all super important. Like no one could get in touch with Guzman. He just like wasn't. We were told he wasn't considering any projects, but he definitely wasn't considering indies. You know, he had just did Wednesday, so like like we would check in like every 2 or 3 months. How about now? And it was 18 months of no, 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 no. And then finally, a person that I knew posted that they were at a Knicks game together, sitting courtside. And I hit this person up like, yo, I've been trying to get in touch with Guzman now for almost 2 years. Like, I need him to do my movie.
Yeah.
And he put me on an email with Guzman. You know, but remind you, this is 18 months of no's. So I was like,
Crazy.
This is the last chance. He's probably going to read it and be like, no, or be like, it's an indie nah. I email it to him, and within 48 hours, I'm on a FaceTime with Guzman, and he's crying.
Wow.
Like, yo, I have to do this movie. This is the script that I've been waiting for my whole life.
What?
Like, I'm
Crazy.
so honored to be a part of this. Like, not only am I going to be in your movie, like, how can I help? You know, we talk about these moments of self-doubt, you know, and these moments of like purpose, and like, you know, definitely getting in a Sundance, which 18,000 people apply and only 8 get in.
8?
You know, 8. This was my first script ever.
Crazy.
You know, so
Crazy.
to get in a Sundance was crazy. And then, you know, to have Guzman be like a person who's made over 50 movies and has worked with all the greatest directors and writers to be like, this script deserves to get made, was such, you know, it was fortifying, man, and reassuring, and like reminded me that like all the hard times is just not a reflection of my talent, but just the process. But he's a living guardian angel, man. He's such a special guy.
No, definitely. Did he help produce it too?
He helped produce it. He helped finance it. Him and his son, Sami Guzman. I mean, I would not have gotten this movie made without him, you know? I mean, there was a team of people that I wouldn't have gotten this movie made without them, but Guzman was definitely one of the more special people involved with that, just because he helped finance it and add so much to the actual film with his acting. So it's crazy.
Nah, definitely, man. I see you mention Sundance too. So, and that was like back 2019, right? And I also seen that you got some like great advice from Sanaa Lathan. Like, what? Yeah, I know that's
crazy.
That's major. Yeah, crazy. So what did she tell you? Like, how did she like, you know, give you some help you out?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you aren't already familiar with the Sundance Labs, I mean, it changed my life. Like, going to Sundance made me a director, a feature film director, or a narrative director, because coming from music videos and commercials, I spent my whole day was just looking at a monitor, making sure it was in focus, making sure the colors looked right and the camera moved right. And like, that's not my job as a director. When you make a movie, my job is to protect the movie and craft performances with my actors.
Right.
So I'm so appreciative of my time at Sundance, because it really prepared me to make my first film. So if you're not familiar with Sundance, I highly recommend applying to it, because the way it works is you go to Utah for 6 weeks. You go to Sundance, Utah for 6 weeks, and they pair you with mentors. So you have an acting mentor, which was like Sanaa. I also had Ed Harris, an iconic director. They'll pair you with directors like Ronaldo Marcus Green, who did the Bob Marley movie and who did the Serena Williams Dad movie. They'll pair you with editors. They'll pair you with DPs. They'll pair you with you pretty much go to this place where they pair you with filmmakers who are at the top of their industry, and they read your script and they give you feedback and they allow you to shoot 4 scenes from your movie as practice.
Oh, wow.
You know, so
Crazy.
like you'll shoot a scene and then you'll edit the scene the next day, and they'll come in your trailer and they'll give you advice. So like Sanaa was my acting mentor, and like the scene she really helped me with is there's a scene in the movie in the 3rd act where after Kadir runs away, he comes home and him and his mom finally have this conversation that we've been wanting them to have the whole movie. And like Sanaa was so helpful with that, you know. And like for me, I'm an orphan. Like I have a mother figure, but I didn't have like a birth mom. So like I was so appreciative of Sanaa, because she was really reminding me of like the details of how to really make the scene work, you know, and just the pressure of what it is to be a black woman in this world and in this country. And, you know, she really helped me with that, and just said to me, you know, you know, I would say the biggest thing she told me that rang it true in my head throughout all my rejection and all my pitching, and she was like, you deserve the best. Like, don't let anyone tell you that you don't deserve the best. If there's an actor you want, you tell them you want that actor. If there's an editor you want, if there's a DP you want, if there's somebody that you want, don't let anybody be like, well, this is a small movie, so like we can't get that person.
Right.
And that's what allowed me to have one of the most insane ensemble casts for my first movie ever.
Insane.
Because I was like, I hear Sanaa going like, you deserve the best, you know, and felt like my script deserved that respect and attention. So, you know, just another element of reminding me of my value and my worth, and was even a mentor to me when I left the lab. Like when I was meeting, like 107 people said no.